Hello, it's Katrina at the Sewing Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to make a quilt using a honey bun and a plain jelly roll. So the quilt behind me measures 56 by 47 inches and I've made that using these two. It's a really easy design, there's not a lot of matching, it's very forgiving, so I'm going to show you how you make that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unwrap our honey bun, because this is always the best bit, getting this open. And then we are going to cut our strips in half. Now the reason I cut the strips in half is so that I can shuffle my colours a bit better. You don't have to, you can sew them together if you want to in a full length strip. But I quite like cutting them in half and then shuffling my colours. So we are going to need 5 strips for each of the little blocks, and we're going to sew those together and then we're going to subcut them. So I'm just going to cut a few more of these and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and start some sewing. So we're going to join our 5 honey bun strips together. And I'm going to sew them in pairs and then add the other one so I can chain piece. And now I'm going to go over to the iron and I'm going to press those, and then I'm going to subcut them into 5-inch widths. So I'm going to press these. So I've got my 5 honey bun strips joined together. So that's half of one of the strips. And I'm just going to press this now. And I tend to try and press them all going one way. I find that helps the quilt to lay flatter. So I press all of these going one way, because there's no matching of these, because we're actually going to sash these blocks in a moment, but it just helps the quilt lay flatter. So then I'm going to subcut this into 5-inch sections. So I'm going to line this up to get rid of this selvage here. And then I'm going to come across the board and measure 5 inches. So if you remember, you need 5 strips and then cut into 5-inch blocks, 5 inch across the width this way. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your jelly roll strips. So these are plain strips. Alternatively, you can just cut yourself some 2.5-inch sash in. Just going to press the middle bit of the seam here to get rid of this seam. And then I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to sew this to the side of my blocks. So I'm going to pick up each block and I'm going to sew it to my 2.5-inch jelly roll strip. And because I've pressed all my seams coming down, it makes it easier if I do it this way round. I've stopped with my needle in and I'm just going to pick the next one up. And I would do that all the way down with all the blocks until I'd used up the whole length of this piece of fabric. So now I'm going back to the iron, I'm going to press these and I'm going to trim them up. So I'm just going to press these back. And then I'm going to square them up, cut them off the strip and just tidy them all up. You might just need to give them another press after you've done this. If you're not confident at doing this, you can sew them individually. It's just that I like to do them while I'm sitting at the machine. I like to do all of the sewing and then come to the iron and do all of the pressing. So I'm just going to give them another quick press. And then we're going to lay them out. So on the quilt behind me, I've got 7 blocks in each row, and then I've got 8 rows going down. And that uses up the whole of the honey bun and the whole of a plain jelly roll. But if you're cutting your own strips, you're going to need 1.25 meters of fabric. Right, so to lay it out, we've got one of our sashing pieces at the side, and then you would have all of your blocks so you could really mix your colours up. So then we're going to have the next one, so let's do that one like that, and then the next one like that, and so on. But when we get to our end piece, we also need some sashing on the other side. So we need it to be sashed at both sides when we get to the end. Let me just pop that one up there like that. So you would do that until you've got your 7. I make all of my rows first of all, and then I join my rows together. So my next row would look like this. Let's find one that's got some sashing. Right, so imagine that I've got some sashing on that one. And then what you do is you join a piece of this. Now you will have to join 2 pieces. And what I've tried to do is not have all my joins in the same places. And I'll show you that when we come over to the other quilt. So you would put a piece above and you would join that. And then you would put your next piece between these blocks like this. Now when you come to join these, you want to make sure that these actually line up and they're not offset like that. So the thing to do is to start from the middle and pin outwards rather than start at one end, because you might find that by the time you get to this side of your quilt it doesn't line up. So what I tend to do once all this is joined up, I tend to just lay these over and make sure they're in line and then pop my pins in. But as I say, I always start in the middle and then work outwards to the ends. So that's how you assemble this quilt. So we're just going over to the one behind me now, and I'll show you what I mean about not having all your joins in the same place. So as I said a moment ago about joining your jelly roll strips, so I have got a join here and then I've got a join over here. So I try not to have all my joins in the same place. If I just joined the 2 strips and had them in the middle, it wouldn't be very pleasing to the eye, and also it wouldn't give the quilt the same strength. So if you want to see how I'm going to finish this quilt, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And be sure to watch out for the next episode where I put just a fleece on the back of it. So no wadding and no backing, just a fleece, and how I'm going to quilt it. So I look forward to seeing you next time here in the sewing studio.